Now, joining this conversation, we have Fitsum Achamueleh, legal practitioner in Fairfax, Virginia, who will be joining us. But for now, we have Alexander van Rugen, a global policy analyst in Cairo, Egypt at the moment. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us at this time.
Pleasure.
Thank you. So let's hear your thoughts. Tigray's ceasefire, which was signed in 2022, there's been renewed fighting reported right now in the region this year. I mean, how does DHS's improved conditions justify holding up against ongoing violence that is happening right now, not 2 years ago, but right now?
Well, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, they give their security assessments on the basis of the entire country where a TPS applicant originates from, in this case, Ethiopia. If they feel the country is stable enough to reinvite these individuals that have left their countries for security reasons, their judgment, that's part of what the judge opined on, is their judgment or their opinion remains above the courts. Now, there may be some controversy here because the State Department is the one that issues no travel advisories to American citizens. And the crime rates in Ethiopia against visiting vacationers and also wealthy people within the country is high. So henceforth, they give that warning. But that's not to be compared with individuals of ethnic origin returning to their countries. It does cast a shadow. Is it safe? Well, DHS says it's safer than it was in 2022, and therefore we're lifting the bar and canceling the temporary protective status of those individuals. It will cause a lot of confusion and certainly a lot of dismay to the families that are affected.
All right. Now, this is actually the third or fourth TPS population to lose protection this year. We heard about Haiti, Syria, Somalia, South Sudan, Myanmar, and now Ethiopia. Is there a pattern in which nationalities, or the administration is prioritizing some certain nationalities? And what does that pattern tell us?
Well, you're always going to get people that want to play the racial card. That's politics. But these TPS liftings are site-specific. So when they say Syria is now safe for Syrians to return to, there has been a regime change in Syria, and the activity against certain groups has diminished. So DHS deems it safe for TPS holders to return. Keep in mind the temporary status order was never supposed to be a path to permanent citizenship in America. They can change their status in America if they qualify. There's certain things they can do to fight off the TPS cancellations, such as marrying an American or having a letter of employment, getting a green card, which many of these status people could have done while they were in America. Maybe they didn't qualify. The racial aspect, it is, and also in Asia, it's also in South America. There's 13 different countries that have been affected based on the status of those countries themselves. It casts a bad impression, and the fact that the government is targeting TPS status people right now, part of the immigration deportation program, may be bad timing on the Trump administration's position, because it is creating a humanitarian issue, which historically TPS holders don't commit crime in America. If you're saying criminals, they actually are the lowest crime rate in America for immigrants, because they have immediate disqualification if they commit a felony or 2 misdemeanors. So they tend to be the ones that behave the best.
I know you did give a list of, what they can be able to do to keep their TPS status, get married, and all that. But then I want you to paint a picture for us, because once someone's TPS work authorization expires, what happens to their job? I mean, their lease, their kids' school enrollment. Can you paint a picture of the actual disruption for a family that has been legally working in the U.S. for 4 years or more?
It can be devastating. The work termination is immediate since the court order. So we're talking August 18th, August 19th this week. That also cancels their driver's license. The thing with the TPS applicants is they're well documented with the government. It's kind of low-hanging fruit for immigration to pursue deportations. They've got 60 days to get their affairs in order, which is a very, very tight time frame, especially if they're going to try to file an appeal with the courts. There'll be an onslaught of applicants, and the chance of getting anything done in 60 days is going to be it's slim to none. Disruptive to the families immensely, and it's very frustrating to imagine.
All right. So I'm being told that Fitsum has actually joined us. Thank you for being on the show, Fitsum. Let's hear your thoughts, because Judge Murphy denied the stay, but he let the discrimination claim proceed. Practically speaking, does that give TPS holders any real protection today, or is it a legal formality that won't stop a single deportation?
Thanks for having me. I do not think that this will, the appeal or the continuance of the case would give them any relief. This case stems from a Supreme Court decision. The Supreme Court in June decided that the government had an authority to terminate TPS, on its will. So the 6-3 decision of the Supreme Court was the driving factor for these judges to just simply terminate the TPS of so many countries. So I do not believe that any appeal will give them any relief, and also I do not think that any court will put a hold on the decision, meaning until the appeal plays out. I do not think that the work permit or the TPS would become valid. So it's a very unfortunate situation.
Oh, all right, Fitsum. Now, DHS's own general counsel called this the last remaining judicial block. Can you walk us through what changes on the ground for someone in, say, Minneapolis or DC who's held TPS since 2022? When does their work permit stop being valid?
As of the 18th or the 19th, even though the government says, it gives them 60 days to leave the country, but about the 5,000 Ethiopians who are affected by this, they need to find a way to either leave the country or find another avenue to legalize themselves, because the situation in Ethiopia has become worse than what it was at the time of this decision. At that time, there was a civil war in the Tigray region. Today, there is a civil war in 3 big regions. There's a civil war in Amhara region, the Oromia region, and and then in Tigray, we're hearing there's a drone attack in the past few days. So there is a civil war in Tigray as well. So 3 big regions are waging war with the federal government. So there's still a case to make for asylum, withholding of removal, and if they are eligible for other avenues. So.
All right, let me come back to Alex, because there seems to be an irony here. The State Department still has Ethiopia under a level 3 travel advisory, citing sporadic violent conflicts and terrorism, just like Fitsum said, in Tigray region. But then how does the DHS square that warning to American citizens with its finding that Ethiopia is now safe enough for deportees to return to?
And travel allowances against Americans versus ethnic Ethiopians returning to Ethiopia. One grading is done by DHS, the other one is the State Department. So it's treated differently. Mm-hmm. If you look at Ethiopia as a whole, it's got one of the fastest growing economies in the world right now. Its GDP is growing by about 8%. They've just announced building the largest airport in Africa. It's a mega project, $12.5 billion. The country has its problems ethnically within, but then Africa as a whole has 50 conflicts going on right now at any given time in a variety of countries. 40% of the world's conflicts are in Africa. It's sometimes insensitive to think, well, it's okay to send people back to a conflict zone. But I think that the problem goes much deeper in America because of the Trump regime. He's promised his constituents that he wants to reduce immigration. I think in the case of TPS holders, which are low-hanging fruit to identify, I think he's possibly throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Immigration, ICE has got to be focusing on illegal immigrants, which TPS is not. But unfortunately, they're getting caught up in this sweep. They're low-hanging fruit because they're already documented by the government. They know where they are, unlike many illegal aliens in the country, which amount to anywhere from 11 to 15 million. Parties affected by the TPS in America of all nationalities is about 1 million. Current statistics on deportations is about 675 forced deportations, about 2.2 million voluntary deportations. So that's happened since the Trump regime took over. I think the TPS holders are getting caught up in a sweep, and unfortunately, they're the low-hanging fruit. It may have been a better decision to let their status quo stay, because some of the countries, for example, Haiti in particular, is not a friendly environment to return to. Ethiopia could be possibly argued, but again, it all depends where the region of the TPS holder is back in Ethiopia, where their families are. Will they be subjected to possible military conscription? I think that's a fear they have as well.
All right, Alex, but then is TPS, with all of this, is TPS as a legal category, especially ended as a meaningful protection, in U.S. migration law? Does this mean that it has ended?
No, it hasn't ended. It's been selectively assessed by the Department of Homeland Security. It was never meant as a permanent a path to citizenship. It was as a temporary, in fact, the title says temporary protection status for those afflicted in their native countries for humanitarian purposes. So it isn't ended, but I think they've raised the bar as to what they call acceptable TPS eligibility as to perhaps to former regimes, Biden era, Obama era.
All right. So let me pass the same question to Fitsum, because this ruling leans heavily on the Supreme Court's June decision, on Haiti and Syria. So is TPS as a legal category essentially finished as a meaningful protection in U.S. immigration law now, regardless of which country is involved?
The termination, if some catastrophic event happen or any civil war, either the Trump administration or the next administration could bring that back. This is a thing that every year or every event, the administration in power designate a country. Ethiopia was one of the last countries, whose citizens were given protection. I don't think the Trump administration will bring any TPS for any African or Asian or Latin American country, but it could designate a country as dangerous for its citizens. Any European country, given this trend, but any future administration post-Trump could bring TPS back. It's not like the Supreme Court did not say that TPS is over. The only thing it says is the government has a power to, terminate or designate any country as a TPS beneficiary. So, not over.
Okay. Well, coming back to Alex, the plaintiff's constitutional claim alleges that the terminations target non-white and non-European immigrants specifically. So what evidence will need to suffice or surface in discovery for a judge to find that argument credible rather than just, plausible enough to survive dismissal?
Difficult task. I mean, coincidentally, yes, the ethnicity of countries that are in current turmoil right now, save and except Ukraine, are primarily in Africa, Asia, and South America. We don't see European countries qualifying under this since, of course, the Iron Curtain fell. At that time, many communists or people fleeing communist countries were seeking asylum in America for protection, and that's we saw that more prevalent in the 70s and 80s. Now the tides have turned. Africa is having a lot of conflict, and therefore there are more applicants from Africa. It makes sense if you go by the numbers. As my colleague pointed out, TPS is not disbanded or discontinued. It's now going to be site-specific for the eligibility. And unfortunately, with the campaign to reduce immigration, or certainly illegal immigration in the States, Trump is under pressure to appeal to his voters. This whole situation really got pressurized by the Somali situation in Minneapolis, where a select group of them were engaged in criminal activity against government funds. A large amount of money, maybe 200-300 individuals, but it cast a shadow on the whole culture and group, which is unfortunate. But these actions are being triggered by political agendas, and a lot of innocent people will be affected in this sweep.
Okay. Coming back to Fitsum, Diana Konate from African communities together said that this puts the lives of thousands at severe risks. So in specifics, can you tell us what happens to a person who loses their TPS status and doesn't leave voluntarily? What's the realistic enforcement timeline?
Well, it depends. It depends where the person is. The thing about TPS is the applicants, they have given fingerprint, address, and everything when they apply for TPS and a work permit. So ICE knows where they are and where they work or where they go to school. In addition to that, ICE is using a lot of AI and modern technology to follow these people through their phone, through their vehicle, where they are. So it is, even though it is challenged as a violation of the Fifth and the Fourth Amendment, but ICE is applying this new tracking system using new technology So it is very hard to not to be caught by eyes. Of course, I always tell people, if you have a TPS or if you have an asylum case pending, stay away from airports, stay away from train station, and kind of stay in place. But and also, of course, stay out of trouble. But it is going to be a very unprecedented application and deportation that we're going to see, and it's hard for them to escape deportation. So I think the best thing would be to find another venue, another avenue to apply for some other relief, given the situation in their home countries.
All right. I think this is where we wrap up this segment, but I would love to thank you guys for joining us. Fitsum Achamueleh, legal practitioner in Fairfax, Virginia, and also Alexander Van Rugen, Global Policy Analyst in Cairo, Egypt. Thank you once again.